in case. So basically, in ALL IT, the pseudocode and the flowchart chapter is a new topic, but obviously if in programming, you tend to do that before. Flowchart was there, but now obviously more questions of flowchart can come. So we'll discuss both of these today. Now, computational thinking, let me start from there. The reason why you study pseudocode and algorithms are because you are studying how to break down a problem. How can you, first of all, think about a problem, okay, to find a possible solution for it. Now, obviously, this entire thing is known as computational thinking, in understanding complex problems, obviously in order to form a solution, okay? And that solution can be implemented by a computer or a human, or obviously a combination of both. Now, there are key elements that we'll be discussing in computational thinking over here. Decomposition, abstraction, okay? So, if you talk about abstraction, abstraction basically means it simplifies a problem by removing unnecessary details. So you will see an abstraction that there you'll find lots of abstractions. For example, if you look at this roadmap, okay, this is basically a London underground map. It simply tells you that from which point to which point is what station. It does not give you any detail of what buildings come in between, what restaurants do you have in between, so on and so. So when you have unnecessary information, it means that you have not relevant data within it. You need to remove it. So this is tube map abstraction, and this is realistic distance and locations. As you can see over here, the tube map abstraction tends to be showing you in a better way. Although the realistic distances and locations are real, but they tend to create something confusion. Okay. So moreover, if you look at the satellite image showing trees and buildings as well as roads, now basically there are lots of unnecessary information over here. If you just want to go from point A point to point B point, yes, you will be able to, but you have to struggle a bit. There are lots of unwanted information. Okay. So we have to remove unnecessary information which is not part of our code. That's abstraction, something that is not related to it. Okay. So this is what abstraction means. I'll share this presentation with you as well. Okay. Right. Other examples of abstraction, yeah, fine, tables, money is fine, but it doesn't matter. Decomposition. Sorry for that ridiculous image, but this is what decomposition means, that breaking down a complex problem to smaller and more manageable parts. This is what decomposing actually means. Decomposing, so you will decompose it, you will cut it into different parts, you will make modules, you will make subcategories, and this is the way you can manage everything. Why do you need to do this? Why do you need to decompose? So that whenever you have subcategories, subparts, they're more manageable for you. In error handling, they will be more manageable for you. If you get any error, you can go to the subcategory part, submodule, and you can deal with that error over there. Okay, if you have it in one, it will be a big problem for you to handle it. So it's very important that we also decompose. Okay, we cut it down into smaller and smaller part, and we make it smaller. So making a lot of code into smaller chunks is basically a part of decomposition. Structure charts can be used to break down into smaller parts as well. So structure charts, just like this diagram shows what structure charts actually are. So if you have a big problem, you can cut it down into different modules. Modules will have submodules, modules have submodules. So this way, this is also one of the way we can elaborate decomposition. This is what decomposition actually is, right? So algorithm thinking, all right. So an algorithm is a reusable set of instructions. Okay. Now, let me first of all tell you what algorithms or logarithms, whatever you pronounce it, or logarithms hote kya. Algorithm basically are the ways and the procedures that can be adopted to solve a problem. These problems could be anything. Now, before you actually start working on a problem, you have to do different things. You obviously, this is one of the most important part of computational thinking. You have to, first of all, think What has to be done? So there are the three ways your algorithms can be adopted. One is English prose. You can simply write in English. For example, if I ask you that you're supposed to create a program in JavaScript, what will you do? You would write it. You will write down the solution, thinking whatever you can do. You can write in English, in simple English, in consecutive sentences. You can write it down or points. That's one of the most basic way. We call it English prose. Now, if you want to write in a much more programmable way, we can use pseudocode for that. Pseudocode basically means that you will be writing the program in a structured programming language, not in a high-level programming language. What I mean by high-level programming language is that we will not be using JavaScripting or Python to give our solution, but we'll write in a pseudocode such as begin. If a is less than 3, then do this, otherwise do this, and end if. So we'll have indentation, we'll have specialized keywords for the beginning, for the start, for the condition. So we'll discuss that today. Okay, how can we write a pseudocode? Okay, or the third way that we can solve a problem is using flowcharts. Flowcharts can help us to represent the solution of any problem through diagrams. Flowcharts tend to be a very good way as well. Okay, so flowchart is the second topic we are discussing today. Okay, please, if you have any problem, let me know. Let me just not keep on talking. Kahin bhi aapko feel like I didn't get this, let me know right now. Mariam, Laiba, Alina, right? Are you with me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fatma is also there. Good. Okay, Noor, all of you please let me know. Now, this is something that Java में हम कर चुके हैं. Okay, algorithm building blocks में क्या क्या आता है? Well, algorithms में you will have sequence, a serial steps. Okay, complete one by one. We'll talk about selection using the if statement. We'll have iteration. Remember what iteration was? Loops. Okay, when we discussed loops, remember when we discussed for loops, we discussed while loop. Okay, precondition loop. Okay, do while loop, post condition loop. So we'll talk about these. How can we implement these? Okay. So now applying computational thinking to solve problem. Well, system life cycle. मैंने आपसे theory में discuss किया हुआ पहले. Okay. So we first of all have to do analysis, design, implement, test, and evaluate. So system life cycle has to be implemented. So obviously every time you have to apply computational thinking to solve problems, you have to do the following. You have to analyze the problem. You have to find design to the problem by algorithmic thinking and abstraction. You have to implement it and you test and evaluate. Right. Now let's come directly over here. So what is pseudocode? Let's start with this. So now that's pseudocode in front of you. This is one of the basic examples of pseudocode I could give you. Now there are some rules we have to follow. Okay. So input, the keywords that we'll be using, we can write in capital. Okay. So input number 1, input number 2. If number 1 is greater than number 2, then output this. So input, if, else, output, you can see these are in capital. Okay, you can see that. And you will, with practice, you will know. You see, if then the output that you have, they have indented towards the right. The if statement is not indented. The else statement is not indented. The reason why else statement is not indented is because else is part of if. So if statement को हम indent नहीं करते. मैंने आपको कहा ना, ये आपको मैं एक और PDF file share करूँगा. How to maintain pseudocode rules. You will know how to maintain them. Okay, how can you remember all that? So it is not an actual programming. It's simply code like structure, statements.
ऐसा fixed rule नहीं होता.
क्या जरूरी नहीं होता?
कोई fixed rule नहीं होता.
जी मैं वही कह रहा हूँ. मैं इसके जो fixed rule है वो मैं आपसे share कर दूंगा एक PDF file में. Okay, I made my own notes for this. Fixed rule इसका यही है कि जो आपकी statements वगैरह होती हैं, okay, वो indent नहीं होती. Like if है, else है, ठीक है. जो output वगैरह उसको हम indent करते हैं. ये सारे let you know जो कौन से होते हैं, ठीक है. वही मैंने जिसका कहा ना, this is something that probably you would have done before. Okay, whenever you have to solve a problem, आपने पहले लिखा होगा ये. Okay, for example, आपको कहता हूँ कि आपने Java में you have to make a program that will take two input from the user, and it will find which one is the greater value, the variable, and display the output. So if I say that before you actually do it on computer, आप मुझे लिख के बताओ. You would actually make a pseudocode for that. Okay? Input number 1, input number 2. Okay? आप लिखोगे if this value is greater than this value, फिर लिखोगे this value is greater, else this value is greater. Exactly the same way. Okay, let's go forward. मैंने दोबारा आपको कहा pseudocode में दोबारा आता हूँ. We're not done with it. We'll keep on discussing flowchart, pseudocode, flowchart साथ करेंगे because both tend to come together. Flowchart is a diagrammatic representation how to solve a problem. Why do we need flowcharts? It's very easy for people to understand flowcharts. Why do we need flowcharts? मैं कोई solution निकालना चाह रहा हूँ किसी problem का, and I want to share with my team. Okay. Flowcharts can diagrammatically explain everything. Very easy for everyone to understand. Okay, so there are different standard shapes that are used. We'll talk about those shapes today as well. Okay, and we will see how the flow of control through this work. For example, over here, this start, this shape, and this shape is used for the start and the end. Okay, whenever we need to input something, we use this shape. Whenever there's a process happening, we use this shape. Now, this is something you have to remember. So input किया आपने height, input किया आपने width, area हो गया height into width, और output हो गया. So output, input के लिए we use this shape. Okay, starting and ending के लिए we use this shape. So this is a very basic one. Let's go ahead. So here we go. Standard flowchart diagram shapes. You should be familiar with the following standard shapes used in flow diagram. So the start, or the terminator, both will be using this particular shape. So you have to remember this. Whenever there's a process going on, any sort of process, we'll be using this shape. Okay. And okay. Whenever there is a sub process going on, okay. For example, we are saving to a file. For example, we are printing. Okay. We will be using this particular shape, right? This shape. जब भी आपकी input and output के लगे, just I told you before, then we will be using this. Decision. Whenever you have to make a decision that it should go this way or that way, we'll be using this shape, a kite. Okay. So representing the if-else statement is the best example to explain your decision. So over here you can see what we've done is we said start, input size. Size equals to small, yes or no. Yes, price is this much. Size medium, yes, this much. Okay, so you can save the null statement. Okay, otherwise at the end we can say is output the price. This is a switch case statement. Okay, switch case statement मैंने भी जब जावा आपसे start करनी है इंशाल्लाह दोबारा revision उसमें मैं वो case भी कराऊंगा. Case is an alternate way of if statement. कोई जरूरी नहीं आप case use करो, if भी कर सकते हो use, मगर मैं आपसे switch भी दोबारा discuss करूंगा. Okay, मैं इंशाल्लाह भी करूंगा कि हम अगली क्लास में we will start Java के revision. Okay, हाँ, very important. This lecture is being recorded for that particular purpose. I did share 4 videos of the previous syllabus with you. Laiba, frankly, has been the only one sending me the papers. No one else does. I'll be honest. Okay, Laiba, very good. ये चारों papers मैंने आपको भेजे हैं बहुत important हैं. I'm sending you more as well for database. And if you don't keep on doing this, I'm telling you it will be a big problem for you. Those who are sticking with me and doing the work, उनको problem नहीं आएगा. 3 weeks में your mocks are starting. Then you'll not have time. So you see where you are. Okay, साथ साथ जो कर रहे हैं बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं. Okay, मैं साथ साथ वीडियो भी भेज रहा हूँ या तो मैं वीडियो भी ना भेजूँ. I'm giving you the solution as well. What else can I do? Anyway, I don't know. It's being recorded. So that's just a switch statement. इसको मैं discuss करूँगा in Java again. Okay, then you'll have more idea about it. You have cases over here. It's just like this statement, like I told you. So ये while loop है, do while loop है. We have discussed this in Java. Okay, while loop basically क्या होता है? It works in this way that while के बाद condition आती है फिर statement आती है. So while is known as a precondition loop. Okay, precondition क्यों होता है? जो आपकी condition है वो पहले आ रही है. Okay, input किया while input is equals to false, true, input number is numeric और फिर हुआ. ठीक है, right? Do while क्या होता है? डू वाइल में होता है कंडीशन बाद में आती है. ओके, सो स्टार्ट इनपुट पासवर्ड. पासवर्ड ये है कि नहीं है, है तो यू गो बैक, फॉल्स लॉग इन. ठीक है, डू वाइल डू. Representing for loops of flow, for loops. So for loop, obviously you know what for loop is. We've discussed for loop many times. So start count one hua, count is less than, it's a condition. If this condition is true, up output karo, increment karo, and kar do. If this condition is false, then you go back, then you enter another condition. जब तक ये true नहीं होती, keep on entering it. When count will be less than 12, when it's true, then the output count is multiplied by 2, and the count is incremented, and then it ends. So this is what for loop actually is. और आपको याद होगा for loop में हम discuss किया था कि for loop में you have is condition, okay, you have an initialization, okay, initialization, condition, and an increment. Okay, initialization here, condition, and an increment. This is what makes the for loop. आपको याद होगा इस बात को. Okay, right. This is another example of for loop. So, writing algorithms solve problems. So here we go. Write an algorithm using pseudocode for a vending machine that runs each time a coin is entered to check whether enough money has been provided to dispense a can of drink that costs 65 pence. Okay, so let's do this. Let's try to do this. You can read the question or isko dekh sakte hain. So the algorithm should allow a user to keep entering coins until the required amount can be provided. Fine. If not enough money has been provided, the algorithm should output the amount that still needs to be entered. Fine. I'm sure you would have been thinking the same thing. If the right amount of money has been entered, the drink should be dispensed with no change given. Okay. If too much money has been provided, the drink should be dispensed and change should be given. So यही process आपके दिमाग में जाएंगे. If I have to write an algorithm using pseudocode, okay, if I have to write a pseudocode, in other words, for this particular problem, इसका pseudocode में किस तरह लिखूंगा?
For loop इस्तेमाल करेंगे?
बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं. So पहले मैंने क्या किया है? पहले मैंने एक इंग्लिश प्रोज में लिखा है. हाँ, मैंने इंग्लिश पहले सिंपल इंग्लिश में लिख दिया है कि दिस इज व्हाट आई एम थिंकिंग. ओके, एंड आई वुड एडवाइज यू टू डू दिस. एक कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम आपको आती है, आप एक ब्लैंक पेपर लो उनको और राइट इट डाउन. ऑब्वियसली इसके हम प्रैक्टिस करने लगे. मैं आपको प्रॉब्लम्स एंड सॉल्यूशंस आज इसके भेजूंगा. माय ओन प्रॉब्लम्स, माय ओन सॉल्यूशंस फॉर यू टू प्रैक्टिस. Okay, because this part has not come in P1 till now. Okay, P1 and P3 तो अब आएगा. तो टफ नहीं है. Frankly speaking, मैं तुमको ये मुफ्त के मार्क्स हैं, मगर आपको प्रैक्टिस करना पड़ेगा. Okay.
सर इसमें if then else ज्यादा प्रैक्टिकल होगा या फिर for loop?
If then else बेटा, इसमें if ज्यादा बेहतर यूज होगा. For loop से भी हो सकता है. Okay, so अब देखो इसको. Let's start discussing it. Okay, start by analyzing the problem. Apply decomposition and abstraction. अब देखते हैं इसको हम decomposition और abstraction किस तरह apply कर सकते हैं. Although इसकी जरूरत नहीं है, मगर still I would just like to discuss this with you. यहाँ decomposition क्या हो रही है, abstraction क्या हो रही है. You could directly do it yourself. Decomposition, like I told you, is to break down the problem. The system needs to allow users to enter the money. Fine. So break down the problem, decompose. What does decomposition means? To basically break it down. The system needs to check whether enough has been entered. The system needs to be able to dispense. The system needs to be able to calculate. This is what breakdown means. It means कि पूरी problem को as a one go नहीं treat करेंगे. हम उसको split करेंगे कि पहले system क्या करेगा, then what system will do, then what system will do, and then what system will do. So these are the four major steps that our problem will be catered with. This is what decomposition means. Are you following me? इसको decomposition कहते हैं. Abstraction का मतलब ये है representing only relevant details. Unnecessary details अगर आ रही हैं, and if I'm writing them down, I don't need those. The solution does not need to know how much drink, which drink has been selected. there is no need ask user make a selection. Now, this is very important because I've seen students कि abstraction को computer science में तो आता है ना, they just write irrelevant information. जरूरत नहीं है, question उसके मुताबिक नहीं है, और abstraction is something that we should be following throughout the theory paper. Unnecessary information को हम क्यों लिख रहे हैं? Okay. Frankly speaking, decomposition abstraction is something that you can use throughout your theory paper as well. Okay. If you break it down and you make sure that you don't use unnecessary information on the relevant one, exactly, it's through decomposition abstraction that we can improve our theory as well. The solution does not need to represent the required amount for a drink, 65 pence, and how much has been entered so far. Okay, right. Right. So again, iski zarurat nahi hai. Now we understand the problem. We need to design a solution. Okay, let's see. Using our algorithmic thinking to produce a solution, amounts of money entered and the total required can be represented as variable. The basic sequence is enter money, check if money is enough. If so, dispense drink and any change. Okay, ठीक है. अब आके देखते हैं one by one. This is the implemented solution of the pseudocode. Okay. Now, पहले हमने क्या किया? हमने दो वेरिएबल डिफाइन किए. Total entered, कितना एंटर कर चुके हैं? Cost of drink. You have done variable declaration in Java, आपको याद होगा. हमने a is equals to b, a is equals to 5. We declare the variable. बोलो.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो variable declaration हम कर चुके. You know, we have to declare the variables. Why do we have to declare the cost of drink? Because this is the one of the important variable. जिसका हमने ख्याल रखना है. We need to compare this variable with the total entered. If the total entered is equal to the cost of drink, this is where our algorithm can break. So comparing these two variables is important. We can use a while over here. While the total entered is less than the cost of drink. जब तक ये statement है, we need to input money, obviously. जब तक मैं पूरे मान नहीं डालूंगा, तब तक तो we will keep on doing it. Okay. So while total entered is less than cost of drink, input money. Total entered is equals to total entered plus.
हमने पहले मनी को एज अ वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर नहीं किया था.
किसका बेटा?
मनी शुड बी फॉर्म.
किसका बेटा?
हमने मनी को पहले एज अ वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर नहीं किया था.
मनी को वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर करने की जरूरत नहीं है बेटा. वो इनपुट हम कर रहे हैं ना. हमने दो वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर किए, टोटल एंटर्ड, टोटल एंटर्ड.
हम इसको ऐसे नहीं करेंगे कि मनी वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर करते हुए कहेंगे
बेटा मेरी बात सुन ना, जो आपका कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक है ये मनी ही है और क्या है? टोटल एंटर्ड क्या है? मनी ही है. व्हाट इज इट? ये मनी ही तो है. व्हाई डू आई हैव टू डिक्लेयर इट थर्ड टाइम?
ओके सर.
टोटल एंटर्ड कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक क्या है? अब सिर्फ मैं ये कर रहा हूं, मैं कह रहा हूं कि इनपुट मनी. ओके, फिर मैं कह रहा हूं कि टोटल एंटर्ड जो है, टोटल एंटर्ड क्या होगा कि एवरी टाइम आई एंटर समथिंग उसमें मनी मैं रखूंगा. सो इफ आई एंटर 10 और अगली दफा एंटर 5 इट विल बी 15, देन एंटर 10 इट विल बी 25. सो रिमेनिंग अमाउंट में क्या होगा? रिमेनिंग अमाउंट इज इक्वल्स टू कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक माइनस टोटल एंटर्ड. एग्जैक्टली यही मैं सोचूंगा कि हर बार मैं देखूंगा कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक लाइक यहाँ कितना रह गया. कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक तो 65 माइनस 10, फिर मैं एंटर किया 5, फिर 15 हो गया. कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक माइनस 15, कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रिंक 65 माइनस 20, कॉस्ट 65 माइनस 30, यूं चलता रहेगा. एक ऐसा टाइम आएगा व्हेन रिमेनिंग अमाउंट, ये जब ये वाइल दिस कंडीशन ट्रू नहीं होगी, फिर वो डिस्पेंस ड्रिंक में आ जाएगा. ओके, वाइल टोटल एंटर्ड is less than cost of drink. Okay, जब कंडीशन ट्रू नहीं रहेगी. अच्छा, आउटपुट लिखेगा अमाउंट रिमेनिंग प्लस रिमेनिंग अमाउंट. ओके, ये एक्चुअली क्या है? ये सिर्फ लिखा हुआ है हमने यहाँ. आउटपुट लिखे हुआ कि एक स्ट्रिंग में लिखा है अमाउंटिंग रिमेन कितनी है, रिमेनिंग अमाउंट लिखा आ जाएगा आउटपुट में. ओके, कि रिमेनिंग अमाउंट कितनी रह गई है. ठीक है. ओके, नाउ व्हाट वी हैव इज इफ टोटल एंटर्ड. Okay, we have an if condition. If total entered is greater than the cost of drink, फिर क्या होगा? Okay, change amount, cost of drink minus total entered. Okay, so we made अपना एक और वेरिएबल बना लिया हमने, change amount is equal to cost of drink जो भी होगी minus total entered. Give change amount. Okay, right. So आप you trace table से देख सकते हो, वही मैं आपको explain कर रहा था, जिस तरह हम enter करते रहेंगे कितना remain हुआ, मनी के 50 था, remaining 5 रह गया, फिर disperse drink dispersed और give change, क्योंकि यहाँ तो डिस्पेंस ड्रिंक तो हो गया, इसमें वाइल में तो हमने कर दिया, ड्रिंक निकल आया, मगर इफ वी हैव एंटर्ड एन अमाउंट व्हिच इज मोर, ये क्या चेक करेगा, हाउ मच अमाउंट हैज टू बी गिवन बैक. सो दिस if statement is for to give us the change, and this while is there to basically make sure that enough money has been entered to dispense the drink. So that's why we had to split it in two parts, because there were two ways to do it. Because if I go back, I'll just show you. हमने डिस्कस ये किया था, the system needs to allow user to enter money, the system needs to check whether enough money has been entered, the system needs to be able to dispense the drink, the system needs to be able to calculate and dispense change. So we did write it down कि ये हमारा सिस्टम करेगा क्या. Okay, तो हमने ये सेपरेट करना था, and that's what we have done over here, right? ये मैंने आपको एकदम से कॉम्प्लेक्स दिखाई प्रॉब्लम, इट्स नॉट ऑल द कॉम्प्लेक्स कि ऐसे ही आपको आ सकती है. ओके, अब उसके प्रैक्टिस काफी करेंगे. ओके, सो वो ये हो गया ना कि linear search वगैरह इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. Let me now directly come over here. This is the document that I did share with you. Let me go through this. Okay, this is what they have provided us. आपकी बुक में भी है, मगर डिफरेंट है. Let me just cover up with इसमें क्या क्या है. So इसमें डिफरेंट डिस्कस किया है. इसमें उन्होंने किया हुआ है कि we have to line and numbering. Okay, case है, keywords are in uppercase. Okay, upper case में किस में रखना है, जितने भी keywords होंगे you have to write in capital. If, repeat, कोई भी procedure होगा, you have to write in uppercase. Okay, like repeat, statement, until. So until is a key is a keyword, repeat is a keyword. इसलिए हम इनको uppercase में लिख रहे हैं. Okay, right. Lines and line numbering. There could be lines and line numbering given to you. आपको पता है, आपने प्रोग्रामिंग HTML उसमें देखा होगा, जावास्क्रिप्टिंग में every line होती है, line tells you where the problem is. So yes, आपको lines भी दी जा सकती हैं, it will help you out. That's how you give the comments. Okay, you know how to give the comments. ये comments होते हैं. Comments basically are there to explain and elaborate what that coding actually is. Okay.
The comments are actually not part of the code.
Comments are not actually part of the code, and they're needed for us to explain the code.
Just to understand. Yeah. Okay.
Just to understand. और आपके जावास्क्रिप्टिंग में आप comments लिखने होते हैं to explain. It's important. Okay. Variables and constants. So we can define variables and constants. Okay. They could be from A to Z or A to Z. Okay. This is 0 to 9 underscores can be used. So you have assignment. So assignment आप ऐसा करते हो, counter is 1. That's how you assign actually. Okay, can you see this arrow? So
जावा में भी arrow इस्तेमाल करते हैं?
नहीं, वो जावा में नहीं करते, जावा में तो इक्वल टू लिखते हैं ना, identifier, value. That's how we assign. So counter is 0. That's how we assign. We are assigning the value. और मैंने बताया ना, जब हम डिस्कस किया था, when we say counter is equal to 0, इसको मतलब नहीं तक assign the value of 0 to the counter. Is this not what it means? Remember the
इसका मतलब value will start from 0.
जी बेटा, आपको
equal to 0 का मतलब it will start from 0 ना?
सिंगल इक्वल टू और डबल इक्वल टू में फर्क क्या है, हमने डिस्कस किया हुआ है ये. and triple equal to हम discuss किया हुआ है, by the way. When I write a is equals to 5, it means the value of 5 has been assigned to a. तो यही बात इधर नहीं कर रहे हम. Yes or no? A 5 has been assigned to a. So single equal to mean this assignment. 0 has been assigned to counter. Yes or no? Counter plus 1 has been assigned to counter. Number of hours multiplied by hourly rate has been assigned to wages. इसमें कोई मुश्किल बात तो नहीं है, is equal to की बात है. मगर in pseudocode we don't write is equal to, we use this for is equal to. Is it clear? Yes. Common operations. Input. हम लिखेंगे input and identifier. Print values. For example, input and print statement. Input answer, print score, print this. ठीक है? Arithmetic operation, addition, subtraction वगैरह को किस तरह अपने obviously वही ये तो obviously programming में भी सही use होते हैं. Pseudocode में होता है. You know this as well. Relation operators. You know what these are. Selection, if statement. So if statement has to be if condition, then fill statement and end if. Remember, if and end if have to be in the same line. Okay. If and if एक लाइन में आ रहे हैं और then and else एक लाइन में आ रहे हैं और statement एक लाइन में आ रही है. Indentation की बात कर रहा हूँ. That's how we indent. Okay. You remember the rules. It's pretty easy. That's why we indent. So if like a is less than this, then do this, else do this. That's how if will be implemented. A very good example over here. You can see how indentation is done. You can see how this is done. You can see how this is done, how this is done. Print and if this is done. So indentation देखो किस तरह हुई है. Okay. Print के साथ है, print के साथ है. Indentation is done, right? So it's a very basic nested if condition. Okay. I would like you to practice this yourself. आप एक पेन एंड पेपर लो और क्वेश्चन लिखो और खुद एक बार लिख के देख लो. आपने once and twice if you've written this yourself, you will clearly get an idea how to write it down. Yeah, I'm going to make you practice it obviously. But then everyone please has to submit the work as well of pseudocode. फिर आपको समझ आएगी. Case statements, okay, case are just like if statements होती हैं आपकी. Okay. मैं ना अगली क्लास में आपके साथ केस जावा में करके ना फिर डिस्कस करूंगा, फिर आपको क्लियर ज्यादा होगा. अभी केस को रहने दो. I will discuss with you. Okay, मैं तो आपको डायरेक्टली फिर आपको आइडिया हो जाएगा. इटरेशन बेसिकली वही आपके आ गए, लूप्स आ गए. इधर pseudocode में we use repeat until. Okay, it's just like while and do while. Keep on repeating this thing. This actually do while. So you do while and you do while and repeat until is the same thing. So repeat the statement until the condition is met. So repeat, print, input until the condition is met. It's just like your do while. And this is your preconditional while condition, and then statement and while. So you can see while this is this, number may add karo, right? Defining, calling, procedure. Procedure aapko pata hai, yaad aapko kitna. Procedures are your functions. Okay, so it's another way you can write functions. Okay. अब बेटा ये 1 minute से कम रह गया, मैं इसको end कर रहा हूँ. Please join again. Okay, then we'll have a problem. Okay, आप please join the back दोबारा करो.